crafters, thanks for joining me here in the attic. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage, and we'll get to crafting and memory keeping. Welcome back to day 2 of Fairy Wings and Forgotten Things. This is a magical fairy collaboration that I'm doing along with 11 other collaborators. That link will be down in the description box where you can follow the daily adventure link tree and find out each day where you need to collect your Fairy Wings and Forgotten Things game tokens that you will then place on your game board to be entered into prizes at the end of the month. There is a complete video on all the instructions for this collaboration and how to enter for the prizes. I will link that at the end of this video. Today is one of my official days. Again, like I said in earlier videos, I will be doing all 30 days, but only on my official days. When you're following along with the adventure calendar or link tree, I have 4 official days: the 2nd, the 3rd, the 22nd, and the 24th. Those will be days I will actually be showing you tokens that you will need to put on your game board. So be on the lookout throughout this video to find out which one of these tokens goes on day 2 of your game board. So for day 2, I'm going to be working in the world of the Elemental Fire Fae. This is a kit that I'm using that is from Nate at Peach Domino Paper Crafts. And again, all the links for all the kits that I'm using will be down in the description box. So I'm going to pause the camera a minute, grab some supplies, and we'll come back and create our page. For today's prompt, what I'm going to be doing is creating a large specimen slide. So what I've done is I've printed 2 of my background pages that already had a square in the center of them that's approximately the same size, but I'm going to cut out the biggest one first, and then I'll do the same thing on the other one once I've got this one cut out. You can use your X-Acto knife for something like this, or you can also just cut with the X-Acto knife like that, and then take a smaller pair of scissors. And this is what I like to do a lot of times because it gives me a little bit more control. The only thing with that is you can't use the center piece. If you were planning on using that, I wouldn't go this way, but for right now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this all the way into the corners. And then I'm just going to follow the line here and finish cutting out the squares. So I'm going to speed this up and cut out this whole square. And then to make sure that my slide is the same size, I'm just going to line these up and take a pen and just trace this. To get my square. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the first one. I could again save this, but my X-Acto knife blade really needs to be changed, so it's not giving me the cleanest cuts. So this is a little easier for me. Let's speed this up and get this one cut out. So now I've got my 2-sided specimen card that I'll be putting together front and back like this, and I need to put in the clear whatever I'm going to use for my window. There's several things you can use here. Most people use acetate. I'm going to use some recycled material. I had a cereal bag that I took apart and cut out 2 windows of, and I'm going to be placing that to make my window. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and ink in these windows here. And I went ahead and inked up the inside here too, just in case they didn't line up completely. So I want to make sure I've got tops the way you want them. And I want to go ahead and attach the bag for the window. And what I'm going to do is, instead of glue here, I'm going to just tape this down with some cellophane tape. That way my glue won't accidentally come out and show on my windows. So now I've got my 2 sides of my slide put together. I'm going to grab my pages. I've trimmed down the slides a little bit because I wanted them to fit on this page without covering up my fairy images. And I've cut it down to 9.5 by 6 3/4. I'm going to set those aside because I want to decide how I want to do my background first. For my background, I want to do a little bit of stenciling. I'm going to use some Distress Oxide Fired Brick, and I want to just do this real lightly over the background here. I'm going to come back and use some scorched timber to where it kind of looks almost like molten lava a little bit. I'm just using a blending brush. You need to make sure you're holding your stencil down pretty well because they can shift on you. If you're not comfortable with doing that, you can tape it down with some washi tape or like some low tack tape, kind of like painter's tape, that kind of thing, so you don't tear your paper. And I'm going to try to overlap these a little bit so hopefully I don't end up with a big line where these stencils kind of connect. And I want it kind of just a little random. I'm going to finish up covering this background. I'm just going to speed this up and I'll come back and show you what my thoughts are for filling this in. For reference, the stencil I used here was from the Tim Holtz collection. The number is, I don't know if you can see that, it's THMM123. And now what I want to do is just take some scorched timber and go real lightly over this and see if I can kind of fill in some of those edges. just give it more of a little bit of a scorched look. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working on putting the specimen slides together. But I also had an idea about burning the edges of this. I am going to do this, but I'm going to take this and go to my sink and do this because just in case the paper would catch on fire a little bit more than I can control, I want to make sure I'm near water because this isn't something that you should do haphazardly. You don't want to set a fire to your craft room or your house. So I'm going to pause the video and come back. I've cut out some of the ephemera that was from Nate's freebies. I'm not sure which week these freebies will be out, but these are part of his freebies. The journal pages were his kit. So what I'm going to do is I want to create a pocket over here. I'm going to create a tuck spot here that my specimen slide will tuck into, like that. And then this will go in my pocket. And now it's time to reveal today's fairy token. Today's fairy token is Phoenix Feather. So I'm going to be using this black feather to put in my specimen slide and then use my information card inside this pocket. So the next thing I want to do is put my specimen slide together. And when I go through the details of the card, it'll tell you a little bit more about this phoenix feather. But I want to take some gold paint pen and just paint the center of this feather a little. Remember to put your fairy token on day 2 of the game board. And follow along with all the other fairy guides each day as they reveal their daily game tokens. I'll let that dry a minute. And then I want to just place my feather inside. I'm going to curl it just a little bit. Get it curled just a little. Yeah, like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is glue the edges of my specimen slide together. Grab my burnisher, get this all burnished down. I'm going to ink those edges just a little bit more because they didn't line up perfectly. That's okay. Again, that's one of the things I love about using ink. It can hide any of those little imperfections that you might get. Other side, get those edges done a little bit. You could come back and trim this. I actually think I might trim that just a little bit. This is a little bit more than I want not to line up. Okay. So I'm going to put my specimen slide in like that. Lay that to the side and start putting my decor on my pages. For this one, I'm going to distress all the edges with scorched timber since it is kind of the element of fire fae that we're working with here. I want it to look a little darker than just that vintage photo. And I'm planning on coming back at the end of the 30 days, once I get all my prompts in, I'll probably add some more embellishments to the pages. I don't want to do it right in the beginning. I don't want the book to get too terribly thick and then at the end I not have room for my other prompts. So at the end I will do a complete flip through of my finished, completed journal. And I'm going to add the prompt tokens to the back here when I do that, just so that I'll have a reference for myself of what this collaboration was about. I don't want to do it now because I don't want to confuse anybody and let them think that the days that aren't my official days, that those are the tokens they're supposed to be looking for. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to take a distressor and rough this up a little bit to get a little bit of texture to some of these cards. Some of them that make them look a little more like they belong in the world that they're coming from. Alright, I'm going to glue this pocket down. I'm going to go ahead and glue this tuck spot down. Since this is a tuck spot and I want this to kind of tuck under here, I'm going to put glue on this part and then right on this edge. But I want to glue this whole piece down. So I'm going to go ahead and put all my glue there. With this album, I have to remember that parts of this will be in the post-bound section, so I want to make sure I'm coming out far enough that stuff doesn't get covered up later when I put the book back together. And then I've got my Faerie label. And I think I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to look to see if I've got some lace to add a little bit of texture here. I grabbed that lace and I'm going to add that right underneath my label just to add a little bit of texture to that. And I also grabbed some mica stains, the Tart Cranberry, the Jack-o'-lantern, and Empty Tomb, and I'm going to do some splatter effects around here just a little bit to get a little bit more shimmer and shine here, but I want to get this glued down first. Anytime you're adding any lace or fabric or anything underneath paper, make sure you get plenty of adhesive so that it goes through and holds that in place. And you may have to hold it down a little bit or paper clip it while it attaches. And I'm going to go ahead and read Professor Fernscribe's entry for day 2 before I do the splatters, just so that I don't end up with splatters all over everything else. I'm going to go ahead first and stamp that this is day 2 on my card. I'm going to go ahead and read Professor Fernscribe's notes for the day. Day 2, the Phoenix Feather, from the world of the elemental Fire Fae. Environmental notes. The Fire Fae inhabit volcanic caverns illuminated by molten rivers. Ambient temperatures extreme, breathable air thin, shimmering with heat. Luminous embers drift freely producing sparks harmless to native beings, yet dangerous to human touch. Cultural observations. Morphology, flame-wreathed humanoid forms, continuously shifting like tongues of fire. Social hierarchy observed. Eldest embersmiths preside with younger fae in service. Craft centered on forging, smelting, and nurturing flame. Communication, a mix of flickering gestures and resonating crackles. Artifact notes. The phoenix feather is approximately 18 centimeters in length. Shaft charred black. Vein radiant gold. Weight negligible. Magical resonance. Dual signature of decay and renewal. Handling alternate sensations of searing heat and invigorating vitality. Hypothesis. A rhythmic metronome of rebirth, synchronizing with life, death, and renewal cycles. Potential to rekindle extinguished flame or spirit. Native encounter. In their forage hall, where rivers of lava pulsed like veins of the earth itself, I was granted witness to a rare moment, the renewal of the phoenix. From its ashes rose a blazing creature, wings radiant, leaving behind but one feather, a relic of its passing and becoming. The fire fae stood in solemn ranks, their embers dimmed in reverence. After long debate, one stepped forward and pressed the plume into my keeping. The silence that followed felt heavier than words. I cradled it with awe, for in my palm burned both ending and beginning. So I want to go ahead now and do my splatters that I'll do here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you where everything's going to go because I'll have to leave this to dry once I get this splatters done. But everything will end up being tucked in like this, and this will be my overall page. So I'm going to take these out, and I'm going to start with the jack-o'-lantern. So I'll set this aside to dry, and then tomorrow we'll come back and do day 3. So be sure to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I put up any new content. And until I see y'all again here in the attic, y'all take care.